Last weekend, we actually got into the full swing of things with the first regional for Europe going down. And at the same time, now we also have alternating weeks with the other major region in North America. They went through their closed qualifiers, trying to figure out who the final 8 are going to join the main event top 8 as well. And during this, we got one of the most clutch performances of all time. A lot of fun things to cover in today's recap videos. We're going to be breaking down the closed qualifier for Regional 2 for the Spring Split for North America. And if you guys stick around for the rest of the video, you'll also hear me rant about the worst travel experience of all time. With that said, let's jump into the actual Wikipedia page and all the qualifier stuff. So for those that do not know, every single time that we see these, we are taking the teams that are currently ranked 9th through 16th and automatically giving them a point ranking. Those teams as follows: Rogue, Ghost Gaming, Xset, Sonics, Accrue, Torrent, and Stromboli plus Shopify Rebellion automatically get a spot. The other 8 teams come from an open qualifier double elimination bracket that is absolutely brutal. The teams that made it through: Nefarious, United, Pittsburgh Knights, keep that name in mind, Accelerate, 6 Lit, Randoms, Low Step Bros, and All Mid. Some familiar faces on plenty of these teams, but primarily what we're trying to see is in the closed qualifiers, a Swiss stage performance. If you make 3 wins happen, you then progress through as one of the top 8. You get 3 losses, you end up going home. Overall, some really exciting things to talk about, and there's kind of different facets. So the first part, we're going to talk results, surprises, my general opinion on things. We're then going to talk about a tiebreaker that's coming up over in Europe for their closed qualifiers. And then after everything is all said and done, I will tell you guys what's going on this weekend. We'll have predictions coming up, I think tomorrow, and a bunch of other stuff, but primarily a lot of different things. And then we'll get into the story time if you guys are still here for it. So biggest takeaways from the closed qualifier: number 1, some faces that we were a little concerned about not making it back have now kind of found their footing. Primarily Xset in the first qualifier was actually really surprising that they lost as quickly as they did. We talk about a lot of times that it does take time to build upon a new team with new players, find this identity that you're trying to become, and a lot of excitement from me personally about Percy and Rapid, now that Rapid's playing with more confidence, playing together and what that looks like. And they take a 3-1 qualifier in. They end up beating, to my knowledge, Stromboli, Shopify Rebellion, and 6 Lit. Their only loss does come to Rogue, who coincidentally ends up going 3-0. Another team that had a really solid performance actually in the first regional. Overall, a lot of people have been trying to see where these teams are going to place, and Rogue ended up placing top 8 overall, finally getting through and seeing if that's consistent, and so far they're showing signs. The other team everybody's really paying attention to is obviously Ghost Gaming. With their top 4 performance last split, the results to the AAA Challenger Series and everything else, there was a little bit of hesitation with Ghost, but from what we've seen, from what we've heard about scrims and everything else, they look like the real deal. It seems like Hoxer is 100% a solid fit for this roster, and we have the next coming of the former Oxygen team. Ghost Gaming looks like they're going to competitively fight for a top 8 spot, and there is some real depth in North America. They do qualify 3-1, their only loss coming to Torrent. And the reason why I wanted to save Torrent for last, despite going 3-0 with the best game differential, with wins over United, Pittsburgh Knights, as well as Ghost Gaming in a game 5, was because of their situation come the main event, where their fight is actually going up against NRG. In the main event for the top 16, we've already seen the bracket. We'll do predictions tomorrow, but it does lead me to believe that Torrent game could be quite the upset if NRG continues to struggle like they have been recently. While I do think it could be more competitive than people look, I do want to believe that overall NRG should be able to close that out. They are the better team, but with the way that Torrent's been looking, that is something to keep in mind going into the event on Friday in the team broadcast. Now, back to the actual closed qualifiers. We do have our top 8 teams: Torrent, Rogue, Ghost, Xset, Sonics, All Mid, Accelerate, and Pittsburgh Knights. Accelerate, glad to see them making it back with, after starting 0-2, losing to All Mid and Step Bros. They do end up beating Stromboli, Nefarious, and 6 Lit. All Mid, another team that we've seen probably one of the more consistent teams getting to get back into the swing of things, is going to have to go up, I think, against version 1 first. I'd have to double check on that looking at the bracket. So you are seeing some familiar faces, teams that I always try to put in consideration. Teams like Xset, Rogue, Torrent, Sonics, teams that we see more often than not making top 16. But surprises where a crew, after having a pretty solid performance in Regional 1, now going 0-3. Stromboli, which is the former Charlotte Phoenix team, which I was kind of surprised to not see a big announcement surrounding Charlotte Phoenix about how, hey, we're no longer with the team, we've let things go. I think it was the players that ended up announcing it publicly more so. But them going 0-3 as well, so I don't know if it was a mentality thing, but they only take one game off of Accelerate. Otherwise, they get swept by Xset and by Randoms. Randoms, I think, is always going to be that team that's kind of like a coin flip where they are they're the gatekeeper of the like top, I would say, 16 spots. They're going to be right on the cusp of like 15 to 18, and depending on where they end up is how they go. But that seems to be the case. Consistency is always the most difficult thing. Nefarious, also a team I think in that conversation. But for a crew, I think crew is one of those teams that I expected to be top 16 almost surefire every single time. So for them to fall into the lower sides of that in the more like 16 to 24 range is pretty surprising. So unfortunate for them, and again showing some depth. Also Shopify Rebellion with their new roster having some difficulties and just barely missing out. And the reason why I saved that for the absolute last is because of the whole topic of this video. There was some pretty crazy stuff, and to kind of set the scene, there was a big moment that ended up going down. It comes down to the 5th and final round where teams are 2-2. You either win and make it in, or you lose and you end up going home. In this circumstance is Pittsburgh Knights versus Shopify Rebellion. Pittsburgh Knights currently at a point where they beat Sonics, they lost to Torrent, beat Randoms, and then lost to Ghost. So their every other pattern says and dictates that they should be winning this. On the other side of things, Shopify Rebellion started off hot and then has now lost 2 and is now swinging back in the right direction as well with a win over Lil Step Bros, which is still a ridiculous name, but I don't expect much out of you, Alpha Cap, and the memery that you provide. The crazy thing about this and the intensity that comes with it is what is exciting overall. For those that do not know the starting roster of the Pittsburgh Knights, it is J. Russ, Sosa, and She's the new up-and-comer that is getting some opportunity. And with this roster, there was a lot of expectation that they were rebuilding around Sosa. J. Russ is coming back, no longer with Sonics. Potential to be very solid. On the other side of things with Shopify Rebellion, we already know Memory, one of the underappreciated players in the scene. You've got Parth and then Jordan coming over from Torrent. So not only a new roster, but also trying to build upon success that we know foundationally they quite possibly have. So we go into this series and all of a sudden we end up finding out that J. Russ is no longer able to play and that their sub Wellis is going to be coming in. At the beginning of the series, it goes pretty much in favor of Shopify Rebellion for a lot of people's expectation, and they take a quick 1-0, kind of the feeler match. As they then get into the second round, they had to sub out J. Russ, as I mentioned, and they bring in Wellis, who is now known pretty much exclusively as, well, Ice in the Veins, Clutch, if you don't understand, and this is what the whole video is titled behind. But he ended up subbing in and winning them 3 games in a row. This includes a 0-second assist in Game 3 to go into overtime, and the series-winning goal at 0 seconds in Game 4. See, this is what I really like about the whole system that was put in place. There was a conversation about formats and all this kind of stuff in the past, and some people even making note of, hey, I want us to go back to the RLRS system. And I'm like, why would you ever do that? Like, the whole purpose of this format is to provide opportunities for everyone. And I'm not talking like it was in the RLCS where it was once every 6 months and teams, after a grueling league play where they could only play within their individual season, would then get a chance to play a promotion regulation tournament. And if they didn't win in that against the worst team in the RLCS, then we wouldn't see them for another 6 months, and all their hard work and effort was reliant on one series. But what's awesome about the system now is every 2 weeks you can play in a closed qualifier system with a chance to make it into the main event. Not only are you playing against other teams that are directly ahead of you, but if you do end up making it into that top 16, you then get to play against some of the best teams in your region for a chance to earn points, and over time, hopefully go to the major. This open qualifier system, while it does reward the teams that have been doing it, kind of the been there, done that, the people that have shown prolific status over the years, but it also provides opportunity to the lesser known, and even more so when it is a sub situation that has the chance to come in and make their mark known. A player that most people who have no idea existed is now kind of the talk of the town. The ability for me to discuss him in a video. These are the types of storylines and the moments that I really look for in Rocket League, and hopefully provides a chance in the future. This is just a sub who probably never would have played if it wasn't for J. Russ and his situation. But now that it's existed, does this mean this player now gets the call up? Does this show that a PK team that has struggled over and over and over again to consistently make top 16, who's pretty much been non-existent this season, is now making it into the main event due to this ice in the veins clutch type moment from Well Ice, who is definitely Well Ace? It is unbelievable to see this kind of stuff come through. So I think it's so awesome to have these moments in these storylines, and I wish Pittsburgh Knights the best of luck. Their first match is going to be quite a difficult one due to the fact that they are going up against the #1 seed in G2 Esports, who does not look like they're slowing down anytime soon, and arguably has probably one of the easiest bracket runs that they can make until they get to the upper semifinals. So all they got to do is win arguably one difficult game, I think, in G2's playstyle, and they've got a surefire way into the grand final. So or the upper bracket final for that matter. So it's gonna be pretty crazy for Pittsburgh Knights, but the fact that they do make it in, pretty awesome to see their situation and how it's come to fruition. Alongside that, and something not to forget, is due to the fact that there is also a tiebreaker scenario going on between Solary and Heroic. Shifting gears over to Europe, just so you guys know, due to the tiebreaker scenarios and everything else, there is 2 teams tied right now at 16th in Europe, and it's a big deal because that 16th team does get an automatic bid into the closed qualifiers. It doesn't have to go through the craziness that is that double elimination bracket. So Solary as well as Heroic are going to be playing a best of 7 today. I think it's at 6 p.m. Central European Standard Time, and whoever wins that automatically gets the 16th bid, which means they get into the closed qualifier, while the other team has to play through the open qualifier bracket. So closed qualifiers, if they win, if they lose, they're playing in a double elimination open bracket, and it's going to be absolutely brutal. So should be exciting. That is going on today. Don't forget. Link to that somewhere down below. I'll try to put it in the description for you. That is going to do it for today's recap video and everything else kind of going around the Rocket League esports scene. And if you guys have made it this far, as always, I do appreciate it. Consider liking the video, hitting subscribe, and turning on notifications. And now, to close out the video, a little bit of story time. For those that don't know, I was in Atlanta for the CECC Championships for 2022. It's a collegiate event. 4 titles with Overwatch, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Valorant, and Rocket League. Like 400 plus different players, 64 teams, all playing a bunch of different games that we were covering. Really, really long days. Long days are over. It's Monday. I'm supposed to get home, and I'm flying from Atlanta to Detroit to Green Bay. On the Atlanta flight, this is probably at about 1 in the afternoon. We get informed on the flight while we're boarded, everybody's in their seats, that there's 2 people that are sick and that we may have to let them off the plane so then we can go about our way. Scary thing about this is I have 40 minutes to try and land in Detroit, get to my next flight, and then take my flight from Detroit to Green Bay. It's a very short layover. And the difficulty is with these people being sick, there's a chance that I don't make it. We end up sitting 40 minutes waiting for them to find out that they're actually not sick, that everything is awesome and peachy keen, and then we take off. So I land, I have negative time to get to my next flight, therefore I'm not able to, and instead of going from Detroit to Green Bay where I live, I have to go from Detroit to Minneapolis, and then Minneapolis to Green Bay. Instead of getting home at 4:30 in the afternoon, I am now going to get home at 9:30 p.m. at night, 5 hours later. Eventually, the layover of 2 hours goes by. I get on my flight, and we end up going from Detroit to Minneapolis. But wait, there's more. As we get from Detroit to Minneapolis, we're sitting roughly 15 minutes out from Minneapolis, and they let us know that there is thunder and weather storms going on, and we can't land. So then we continue to fly in a circle for 20 minutes in the air, all while I'm looking at my watch being like, I'm going to miss my next flight again. It's going to happen. And eventually it gets to the point where they realize that they are out of fuel and they need to divert and land elsewhere. So we land in Rochester, which is like southeast. It's actually just on the border of like Wisconsin and Minneapolis by like La Crosse and Winona area, for anybody who wants to know where that is. So we land there, and then we find out that in order for us to get fuel, we have to wait for the plane in front of us to move and also get fuel because there's not enough space at their tiny airport, which we then sit on this plane for another hour and a half to 2 hours doing nothing, waiting for that. And then when that plane finally moves and finally refuels, they then tell us that we still can't leave because there is a storm coming in from the east and we need to wait for it to pass. And I'm sitting here like, well, I do have a 2 hour layover, so maybe it's possible, But as we continue to get more and more information, I swear, I don't know what I did. I don't know who I hurt, but this bad karma is just, they like give me a little bit of hope and then they just take it away. And it keeps happening. And it's happened now 3 or 4 times. All that goes down. Eventually, we take off from Rochester. We then land in Minneapolis, which is only a 20-minute flight. My other flight to Green Bay is now gone. I have confirmed that I am going and staying in Minneapolis. That is what is happening for the night. So be it. Fun fact, if I would have landed 20 minutes earlier, I could have gotten another flight back home within 30 minutes of where I live and could have got picked up at the airport, taken an Uber, something to get me home. But because of these short delays, everything is happening. So it is now officially like 10 o'clock at night. I get a hotel, stay at the hotel, whatever, sleep. The restaurant at the hotel was too busy because of all the delays, so I couldn't get a seat or a drink. So I just ended up not eating because there was nothing else I could do. And that was super fun. Woke up the next morning, get to the airport. I'm ready. I'm on time. Everything's good. And until it's not. This morning, it is now officially Minneapolis. It is about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And we find out that the other flight, the plane that is supposed to pick us up so we can go back to Green Bay, is coming from Milwaukee. And they are off by about 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, 10-minute delay. Could be worse. You know, I've been dealing with all this stuff. I'm technically delayed like 16 hours. Why not another 10 minutes? No big deal. Everything's fine. Plane from Milwaukee lands in Minneapolis and is like, all right, we're getting ready to go. They're going to clean the plane. Things are going to be good. And then we're out of here. Just kidding. Our flight staff, their shifts are done and we don't have any staff to fly the plane. We need to wait for the new staff to change and get dressed. And then we'll be on our way. Apparently that takes 2 hours. So now my flight is pushed back 2 more hours, make it 3 because of boarding and flight times and everything else. And what I was originally supposed to be home at 4:30 p.m. on the 9th now leads to me getting home at 2 p.m. on the 11th. All because 2 people who were sick weren't actually sick, stayed on the plane anyway. So for anybody who says they like flying, clearly hasn't flown enough, or doesn't have my type of luck. Either way, if you guys made it this far, thank you. I just needed to vent. That has been my last 24 hours, and it has been infuriating, and I just had to get it out there. So while esports and working in esports is awesome, it's not always all sunshine and rainbows. So with that said, if you guys do enjoy the content, I appreciate you all being here. Let me know, comments down below. Any bad travel stories for you guys? Be interested to hear what you guys have gone through as well. But with that said, thumbs up, subscribe, notifications. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.